Hello again everybody, and this time we're going to use the same pattern as I did in my previous video, but this time we're going to change the happy birthday from a cut to a watercolour pen. So I've opened up the layers panel, I'm just selecting the layer that says happy birthday. You can see that it's just lit up there, just make that bigger so you can see it, and it highlights the bits that you've got in your layers. You then on the bottom left change it from basic cut to pen, and because I'm going to do watercolour pens, I'm scrolling through to find the watercolour pens, and I'm going to choose the red for that one. I'm then going to go to the other layer and change it from a normal pen to a watercolour pen. So it's already selected pen, but I just select marker and go to the bottom. I think this time I'll do it in blue. So I'll just apply that, and there we go. So now this time, instead of cutting the card, it's actually going to draw the card. So we go to make it, we make sure that we've got the card mat selected, and we check which side we're using. The watercolour cards, if you actually look on the pack, it will tell you what size the cards are. So let's have a look at the pack here. Here we go. So on the front there it actually says R40. So these are the watercolour cards because we're going to use the watercolour pens. So we just select R40 and we're ready to go. So then on the card mat, I'm going to insert one of the watercolour cards. Tell which is a watercolour card. It's got a lovely texture on it, which is perfect for having that watercolour effect. It's quite thick as well, so it will take the watercolour ink better, particularly when you add the water afterwards. So as with any of the cards using the card mat, there is a slot. You just have to slot it in underneath so that it flaps over. The watercolour cards are quite thick, so you might need to just be a bit careful there, but make sure it's pushed to the end. And then fold it over and then press it down to make sure it doesn't move, making sure, you know, when you are drawing it doesn't make any mistakes. Just using my Cricut tool there just to press it down, just to be on the safe side. Just make sure there's enough clearance in the back. Push the mat up to the rollers and then click next. Making sure your star wheels are in the middle. Normally we'd use card for intricate cuts, but on this occasion what we're actually going to do is we're going to select our material from the materials list and type in card. And then it brings up the list, and near the bottom, watercolour card, so we know that it knows it's the right card type, and it knows the right amount of pressure to add when it's actually drawing the cards there. So these are the watercolour pens, the watercolour markers. You get 6 brushes. You also get the watercolour brush itself. So we're only going to use the marker bit, opening A. These are Cricut Watercolour markers, 1mm tip, and this one's the blue one. So it's telling me it wants me to put the blue one in first. So open up the receptor, push the pen in until you hear it click, close it again, and then press go. You can just see in closer detail here as it's actually drawing with the blue marker. Now it is a 1mm nib, so it's not as fine as the previous pen that we used in my previous video where it was an extra fine nib. This one's a bit thicker. You need to keep that in mind when you're actually drawing. Make sure the image you're using, if you're wanting a very fine image, maybe the marker pen wouldn't be quite the right pen to use. So now it's time to change the pen from the blue, make sure you put that lid on, to the red, again making sure that you click in place this part is the bit with the hearts and the happy birthday. Okay, so that's all done. Eject. And what we're going to do now is use the watercolour brush. So this is just a nice brush tip with water inside, as you can see there. That's just normal tap water, nothing too fancy. And it has the brush tip. And what we're going to do is just go onto the card and actually just colour in with the water. Being careful that you don't squeeze it. You don't want loads of water coming out. You don't want to swamp it. But you just want to give it a nice watercolour effect. This might take a bit of trial and error. I remember the first card I did, I didn't appreciate how much the colour would spread and I added too much water. So you might want to do a tester piece first, but it is really useful. I say as little as possible around the edges, and then you can add more if you need to. When you're doing this kind of card, if you wanted to, you could use the contour tool to actually duplicate and change different colours in the actual card. So if you wanted different colour balloons, different colour banners, different colour party hats, etc., then you could use the contour tool to do that. I will actually be uploading another video showing you how to use the contour tool to colour in on a Cricut Design Space. But this is just a bog standard image from Cricut Design Space. We're using the Cricut card mat, we're using the Cricut Watercolour Cards and the Cricut Watercolour markers. So yeah, just have a play with it until you get used to it. We're just adding some colour wherever we feel we want to, really. Just adding that nice little watercolour effect. So I've not gone crazy, just added a little watercolour effect, and when you're happy with it, you can then use your tool to just release it from the card mat so that you don't make any dangerous mistakes by tearing it or anything. So just using the spatula tool there and just easing it underneath and then pushing it around the edge just to make it a bit easier to remove from the card mat. Shows how well it sticks though, stops it moving, which is great. We like that. And gently removing it from the card mat, and there we go. Quite a different effect, but it's quite effective. Very pleased with it. Lovely. So yeah, just let me know what you'd like to see next and have a go with me.